Today's video is a little bit different because usually I try to convey information to you guys, but this video is more of a invitation to discuss some information that I've been thinking about a lot recently and trying to make sense of. And it basically stems from this school of thought created by a man named Bernardo Kastrup. He calls it analytical idealism. Okay, and essentially it's a modern science incorporated take on idealism, and it essentially states that everything in the universe is consciousness. Okay, now this idea that everything is consciousness resonates very, very deeply with me because it's the only thing that I sort of intuitively accept when it comes to the nature of us and the nature of the universe and how those two are connected. Okay, but I'm curious as to what you guys think of the different ideas within analytical idealism, because I've had comments on this channel from a few very philosophically minded people, very, very interesting comments, and I would love to just start a conversation. So let's get into what exactly analytical idealism is. So analytical idealism at its core basically states that consciousness is fundamental. Consciousness is the fabric of the universe. It's what makes up everything, you, me, everything. Okay. And what I find resonates with me a lot about this is that, first of all, to this day, science still can't explain the nature of an atom, right? Like material, like I'm going to refer to science, modern day science, as materialism because that's essentially what it is. But materialism still cannot explain what an atom is. It can only explain how it behaves, but we don't know what an atom is, right? So that still leaves the gap for consciousness being the nature of everything, right? Second of all, this basically also states that matter, or what we perceive as matter, right, is what different patterns of consciousness looks like from an external viewpoint. Okay, so I'm going to try and like paint a picture for you to understand. When you use your brain, when you think things, when you remember things, when you react to things, whatever, when your brain is working, to you, it feels like the image inside your head. Like say you're trying to remember something, you're trying to think of different points in the past, or when you're trying to like figure something out, you might count in your head. It's like you've got that image in your brain, right? It's like your own little like hub inside your head that you use to think, right? And that's your experience of your brain. But to another person, your brain is just a it's a thing that has neurons firing in it and veins, and like from the outside it just looks like, if you hold a brain in your hand, it's a brain. And so think of like matter in the same way, right? When we look at matter, we see a chair, a table, a tree, a car, whatever. But what if from that thing's point of view, it's a pattern of consciousness? Does that make sense? Kastrup refers to matter as stable patterns, simple, stable patterns of consciousness. So a rock to us looks like a rock, but it's just consciousness organizing itself in a specific, stable way in order to experience itself, because everything falls under the guise of consciousness or awareness, right? So anything that you can see or touch or anything is experiencing itself. It's like a rock is consciousness experiencing a rock through itself. And for living organisms, he refers to them as complex, highly unique patterns of consciousness. So like me and you, we are way more complex patterns of consciousness compared to a rock. Yeah. And to me, I resonate with that. To me, I get that. That makes sense to me because if you stop and think about it for a second, yeah, the only thing that we ever truly, truly know is our perception. It's our own consciousness, right? That's the only thing we ever know. We never get to like experience anything other than our own experience. And he basically states that behind our ego, behind our thoughts and opinions and desires and all these things, is the same consciousness in every single person. Think about it. When you're born, before you get socialized and you know, introduced to people and things, and you watch movies and you form your own judgments and opinions and likes and dislikes, right? You're just experiencing being alive. You're just an experiencer experiencing experience. Does that make sense? And everyone is the same experiencer, if that makes sense. There is nothing else besides consciousness. Like, we can't even say what an atom is, right? We can't, like, think about it. All of science, right, is based on what a human being can perceive and measure, right? Like, everything that we've ever labeled as scientifical fact is only fact in the eyes of a human being. If you could like teleport your brain into an insect, the way they see things is completely different. Like, think of a fly, for example. They see things, their vision is in hexagons, right? When they look, it's like, imagine you look at a wall, but the wall is like split into millions of small hexagons. That's how a fly sees, right? Think of a spider. They can't even see that well. They go off like vibrations and noise, right? So if they were to develop science, it would be a completely different thing, but they're still living in the same universe as us, right? And this kind of like cuts through that. It's sort of just like it removes all the bullshit speculation about what an atom is, and how matter can give rise to conscious things. We still don't know that either. It cuts through all of that, and it just says, look, the only thing that exists is consciousness or awareness, right? And that awareness expresses itself through many different complex patterns, some of which end up looking like a tree or a rock. Others end up becoming conscious organic organisms. And he also states that what gives us the ability to seem separate from another individual is that we forget. It's like we become dissociated once we become our own conscious being. So when we are born into this world, we forget that we're from this one universal consciousness, and we live as this dissociated fragment of the one universal consciousness, which we still are. We just forget that we're still a fractal of the universal consciousness that everything is, but we forget that. That's what he states as well. And to me, this is so, like, I just go, yeah, that makes sense. Every time I read about it and research it, I just go, that makes so much sense.